All right, real quick, look behind me. Look at this car. It has like some anime girl or something on the hood. I think I want a car like that. All right, guys, so before we begin the video, this is just a quick open call. If any of you guys are interested in crypto and you have something to say, if you have an opinion or a perspective, if you are an engineer, if you are a Bitcoin Cash supporter or a Bitcoin supporter, Lightning supporter, no matter who you are, if you have an interesting perspective, message me. Message me on Twitter, link below, and let's talk. I want to do a walk and talk, just like I'm doing now, but with someone else here who has a side of the story or has something interesting to say. No matter where in the world you are, let's open a conversation and figure out how to make it happen. All right, guys, with that said, let's get into today's video. Guys, have you heard the news? I'm sure you have. Roger Ver, the Bitcoin Jesus, one of the original people in Bitcoin, one of the original people who has onboarded either directly or indirectly, likely thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even millions of people into cryptocurrency, has been unfortunately arrested. What is going on? In today's video, we are going to talk about that in detail and give you my perspective on the Roger Ver arrest. And more importantly, what it means for everyone else who's interested in crypto and Bitcoin. All right, guys, let's get into it. Let's start off with the most important topic, I guess, of the video, which is who is Roger Ver? If you don't know him, you've never heard the name, this video doesn't make much sense to you, but trust me, it is very important that you know who he is and why this arrest is so important, because it will affect you, most likely, if you have any Bitcoin or you're interested in crypto. This is not a biography, by the way, on Roger. You can Google him and learn more about him and whatever, but basically, he was one of the first people who got interested in Bitcoin way back. I don't know what year. He was one of the first people that really saw the value of it. In fact, what Roger did is he started selling memory with his company Memory Dealers for Bitcoin. And this is really early. He might have actually been the first company that accepted Bitcoin as a money, as a medium of exchange. So, of course, he got a lot of Bitcoin as a result, and obviously Bitcoin has done very well financially, and that is sort of the story in a nutshell. Roger also became one of the first and earliest investors with Bitcoin. He invested in a lot of cryptocurrency companies, platforms, even exchanges, many that you may use yourself. So to say that he is instrumental in Bitcoin would be a radical understatement. I've also traveled with the guy, spent time with him, and I say this out of love, he doesn't shut up about Bitcoin, or in this case, you know, the version of Bitcoin that actually works, which is Bitcoin Cash. Everywhere we go, he tips people, he gives people like, you know, $1, $5, $10, $20, whatever in Bitcoin Cash so they can experience it. He is all about that. Everything he does and every stranger he talks to, he brings it up, which is why he earned the name, the Bitcoin Jesus. He spreads the gospel really more than any other person on planet Earth. That is done publicly in conversations and public speaking engagements, and he also does it privately. Just again, when he meets random people, he just gives them a little bit of Bitcoin Cash so they can experience it, and back in the day, a little bit of Bitcoin. So that is Roger Ver. Let's move on to the next topic, which is how and why did he get arrested? In 2014, Roger Ver left the United States. He actually left citizenship. When I talked to Roger about it, he says it's actually the most American thing you could do, because way back in the day when people from England left England to have the American spirit of independence, that is what leaving America today is like. Roger is not happy with many elements of the American government, so he left. If you don't like it, leave. Leaving your citizenship in America would just be easy, right? America apparently is the land of the free. You should be free to just leave. That should be your choice. Freedom, right? Isn't that the whole point of America? Unfortunately, America is like an abusive partner. They do not want you to leave. And one of the ways they prevent you from leaving, well, there's many ways. You actually have to do an exit interview, and you have to get permission to leave the American system, which is crazy, to dump your citizenship as if you're property of the American government. It's really sickening. But part of the process of leaving is you also have to pay an exit tax. And the idea here is that any money, anything that you've accumulated in your time as a citizen of America happened because you were a citizen of America, and therefore you owe the American government and society a piece of what you have accumulated and earned. So Roger paid that tax, and he left. That was 2014. Then in 2017, there was the hijacking of Bitcoin. And there's an amazing book called Hijacking Bitcoin, which you can find in the link below. You can go check out the book and get yourself a copy and catch up. And what I love about this book is it really does a good job laying out how Bitcoin has changed. And here's the thing, even if you are in my audience and you genuinely love the new version of Bitcoin, BTC, that's fine. The book is still factual. So you can read the book and understand the history clearly and still come to a different conclusion. I think that is totally reasonable, and I think that there are elements of the argument of people who are pro Bitcoin versus Bitcoin Cash that are reasonable. I just come to personally a different conclusion, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you do want the complete history of how Bitcoin has changed in a way that you like more now, you should still check out that book. Roger, in 2017, when Bitcoin shifted, when the developers changed Bitcoin from what Satoshi originally wanted it to be, and what basically all of the investors and companies that were using Bitcoin, like Microsoft and Valve and all these companies wanted it to be, Roger apparently sold his Bitcoin. Some percentage of it, I don't know how much. And the American government has arrested Roger Ver, saying, hey, you sold Bitcoin in 2017. Yes, you weren't a citizen, but that Bitcoin was accumulated while you were a citizen, and you would have had to pay taxes on it in 2014. That is their argument. Now, is this a good argument? Well, let me just say, I'm not a tax professional. I'm not a financial expert. I don't know, okay? But I will give you my thoughts to a degree. And actually, rather than give you my thoughts, I will read you not all of it. In fact, you can click below to see the entire thread, but I'll read you a few tidbits that come from a tweet from Kim.com. Now, Kim.com, if you haven't heard of him, he was the creator of Mega Upload, which the US government also basically destroyed. Peer-to-peer file sharing. Side note, if you don't know where I am, this is Fukuoka City. Fukuoka is one of my favorite cities in all of Japan. It's located in the southern part of Japan. Very good tea, very good ramen. And also it has a reputation of having the most beautiful women. So any single guys, maybe this is where you come. So again, the position of the United States government is that if Roger Ver sold his Bitcoin and claimed taxes on it in 2014, he would owe about $48 million to the US government. Okay, that's what they're saying. That's why they arrested him. The problem with that is that back in those days, back in 2014, there wasn't regulation like we have now with Bitcoin. And in fact, it wasn't even clear back then what the legal status of Bitcoin was. Most importantly, how would you assess the value of a liquid asset in 2014? So the question is, how did the US government calculate that Roger would owe that $50 million, that 48 whatever million dollars? Well, here's the problem. If Roger in 2014 tried to sell all of the Bitcoin that the US government said that he would owe taxes on in that year, it would have crashed the entire market of Bitcoin by 80%. Okay? So how the US government says 50 million doesn't make sense, because if Roger tried to sell the Bitcoin at that time, it would have crashed the market to basically be worth nothing. It would have bottomed it out. Bitcoin would not sell for $50 million, okay? This isn't because, again, the liquidity of the market at that time was so small for Bitcoin. This is a really important thing to understand, because if you think about this like I think about, okay, this is $1, okay? This is $1. But if this gets flooded, this coffee right here gets flooded on the market, that 80% of the entire market gets dropped all at once, the price of it would crash. There'd be too much on the market all at once. And that's what would have happened with Bitcoin, okay? So the US government calculating this amount just doesn't make any sense. But even more than that, it's just the idea that the US government is controlling cryptocurrencies. It is controlling, but it's more than that. It's also that the US government is controlling cryptocurrency in a really sneaky, yucky way. And the whole idea that the US government can own you when you leave the country, to me, is also really gross. Like, the idea of an exit tax, even if it is legal, is just, yeah. I have real big problems with the way that they're kind of handling this Roger case. Some people really don't like Roger Ver. And the reason they don't like him is because Roger Ver believes that Bitcoin should function like peer-to-peer electronic cash. It should be scalable as the original design intended. And some people think that additional security with having that scaling not happen is worth the loss of utility. And that's fair. There's disagreement, just like sport teams. You know, if you like the Yankees, maybe you hate the Dodgers, whatever, okay? But at the end of the day, it's the same sport. So what is scary about what's happening with the crypto is people like Roger Ver, even if you hate him, even if you disagree with him being arrested should scare anyone in crypto, because they're coming after Roger, they're coming after you. So a lot of people really dislike Roger. And the reason they dislike him is because Roger's vision of what Bitcoin should be aligns with the white paper, aligns with Satoshi. And a lot of people who are in Bitcoin, BTC, despise Satoshi. They hate him. They hate the idea that Bitcoin should scale on the base layer. They hate that Bitcoin should be peer-to-peer electronic cash. They hate that it should all be done with an increasing block size. And Roger, like Satoshi, believes that, right? If you read the white paper, it's pretty clear in Satoshi's emails that he intended it for it to scale. But I use the word hate a little bit arrogantly. The truth is, they have a disagreement. They have a disagreement with how Bitcoin should be scaled. And that's fine. It's sort of like if you like the Yankees and someone likes the Dodgers, and you guys have rivalry and you guys have, you know, kind of fights between each other. And at the end of the day, it's still baseball, okay? Whether you're on Team BTC, Bitcoin Cash, Monero, whatever, you're still playing the same sport, okay? Or you should be. And the sport in this case is having custody, self-custody of your own money without middlemen, without government interference, without someone controlling you. Been really sad to see, and I guess this is a good thing in a way, is this arrest with Roger has really done a good job showing who the real enemies are. The people that are cheering for Roger's arrest, who are cheering for government involvement, government regulation of crypto, people who are cheering for things like exit tax, which is preventing people from just freely leaving the country if they want to leave, those people are effectively the enemy. Those people are the ones who are on the wrong side, okay? And the people that are cheering for Roger's arrest, who say that they're pro-crypto, the people that are happy that he's arrested, don't recognize that they're next. And this isn't about Roger specifically as an individual, because who cares, right? This is larger than that. A good example of this is a guy named Max Keiser, who is celebrating Roger's arrest. Meanwhile, this guy is nearly in bed with a one-party dictator. Populist, fair, as people have pointed out. He did get a lot of the votes, most of the votes. Just because you're a populist doesn't mean you're not a dictator, okay? One-party rule, okay? Mao still gets all the votes in China, but this guy Max is in bed with this guy, Bukele, from El Salvador. Pro-government as you can possibly be. So of course he's an enemy, right? He's an enemy of freedom. He's an enemy of people have their own custodianship of their own money and their own freedom. Wow, guys, look at this. Hold on. Wow. This is like really kind of not well-maintained park. But there are these, I don't know if they're wild, but really pretty flowers here. that are just kind of growing randomly in this little monument. Maybe in the past this was actually maintained and it was all these kind of flowers, and these are just what's left. But very pretty. But people like Max have been revealing themselves to be an enemy of crypto. And if you are a BTC supporter, you should be sickened by that just as much as if you're a Bitcoin Cash supporter. And on the other hand, you're having people who are coming out of the woodwork and showing that they're genuinely good people that just happen to have a disagreement with you, or with me anyway. A great example of that is Lorenzo Ray. Now, Lorenzo Ray actually worked for Bukele, like Max. But the difference is that Lorenzo Ray said, when the real enemy attacks, we remember that after all, we're on the same team, free Roger Ver, right? And Joel, the Desert Link, says we're seeing who's on the side of our enemies. You know, it might be kind of patronizing to say this, but I am impressed with people like Lorenzo Ray who have the intellectual honesty to say, whoa, wait a minute, guys, we can have a disagreement over the technology, over the scaling, over the, you know, nerdy stuff. But at the end of the day here, what are we working towards? Are we working towards more government control and crackdown? Are we working towards people being reliant on the government and the government having power? Are we working towards separation of church and state and separation of money and state? Is that what we're going towards? What are we actually fighting for? So this is a really good moment in time, in a sense, because it's putting a very clear dividing line over who are, without exaggeration, the literal enemies of cryptocurrency, such as Max Keiser. And this is so important in this moment of time because it's so tricky to know who is doing it because they genuinely believe that something's the right way versus people who are paid off or are, you know, working against you but pretending they're doing it for the good reasons. For example, Lorenzo Ray, in my opinion, he's come to the wrong conclusion, but earnestly. Versus people like Max Keiser, who's come to the wrong conclusion, but pretend to be a Bitcoiner and try to get people to invest in it so there can be more control, more state control. Not good at all. Now let's talk about one final topic before I end this vlog, and we'll walk back home. And that is, what is Roger Ver saying about all of this? That seems important, right? I see a lot of people making videos on the topic, but they're not actually giving his side of the story and what he's saying, right? Roger's perspective, as I understand it from a tweet, I think a tweet that he put up, but I'll double check that. What Roger basically said is, look, I did everything fairly, I reported everything accurately, and I worked with an accountant. All of it's transparent, and if that's the case, we should see Roger free very soon, hopefully. But there's one little sneaky problem that we didn't talk about that we should probably bring up. And I will preface this by saying this may just be wild speculation from a few people on the internet, maybe, but it is a little weird. So Roger put out a book very recently that was called Hijacking Bitcoin. And chapter 12, I believe, has pretty clear evidence that the US government was very early on involved in sabotaging Bitcoin to prevent it from being a usable functional currency for peer-to-peer electronic cash. And right after he publishes the book, he's arrested. Right after he exposes what happened, he is put into jail. And he happens to be in Spain, where a number of other arrests happen of people who are very pro-freedom. Very odd timing, probably nothing, but yeah, we'll see. Anyway, with all that said, Roger, if you're watching this or you're watching it in the future, my heart's with you, man. I can't imagine what you're feeling. Probably a mix of anger and terror and hopelessness. But if it's any consolation, I feel only more dedicated to spreading the word of peer-to-peer electronic cash, as I know many other people do. I hope to see you again when you're released, hopefully soon, in the next few months or weeks or days. And I think it's just terrible what has happened. It really makes me quite ashamed to be an American. But I will say that you definitely live up to your moniker of Bitcoin Jesus. It seems like every negative thing that's happening with crypto, you are kind of sacrificing yourself to change and to save and to bring attention to. And there's definitely a lot of attention coming now. And I'm sure, Roger, you've seen, or you will see, just how many people that are philosophically an enemy of yours in terms of how Bitcoin should be have come out in support of you being released and supporting you and recognizing your importance in Bitcoin in the past and how you're effectively a martyr in Bitcoin today, even if you have a different opinion of some of the people who are wishing for your speedy release. Well, guys, that's it for today's walk and talk. I appreciate you coming along for the ride. Hope to see you soon. Remember, be sure to leave a comment below letting me know what you think about Roger's arrest. And also, message me on Twitter if you would like to be a guest on future walk and talks, and you can share your perspective or opinion on anything crypto related, even if it's something that I disagree with, or you suspect it's something that I disagree with. And I appreciate that. I think that'd make it a lot more interesting. All right, guys, that's it. See you around. Thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe, like, etc. Take it easy. Have a good day.